Okay, here we are again in the town of Marsalton. We're about 2 miles from the Turk's Head, which is Westchester, and I just wanted to mention some of the historic buildings in Marsalton. Now, Marsalton was a town, basically it was a town where a lot of the grain and a lot of different products came in from the farms of this area to be sold. There was a lot of people that would come into the area with their wagons to sell their goods. This was taking place right here. Now, some of the buildings that would have been here during the Battle of Brandywine were Martin's Tavern, which is about 50 yards to my west. And this building behind me would have been here. This is a blacksmith shop. It's definitely a colonial structure. It dates from about 1740. This is exactly what it would have looked like. Now, the Friends of Martin's Tavern is an organization. They restored Martin's Tavern through donations. This was done by a woman. A woman restored this structure back in probably the 1970s to the original condition. Now, she was a friend of Martin's Tavern, and that historical society or that organization still continues today. They're active in this area and restoring different aspects of the area. And this was one of the first buildings that was restored in the area. Now, a blacksmith shop during that time would have been a beehive of activity during the 1740s to about the 1790s. Now, everything that the homeowner needed as far as frying pans, the stove itself, a lot of these stoves, anything had to be made out of iron. Hinges, door hinges, horseshoes were made out of iron. A lot of this was made in structures like this. It was basically somebody's residence, and on the other side of the building was the blacksmith shop, and then the structure to my left was the residence where they lived. And now, coal at this time, anthracite coal, probably was not used for blacksmithing. Anthracite was founded up in Schuylkill County in about 1780s or I'm sorry, it was probably about 1770s that anthracite coal was being used. Most forges that you think of when you go to a historical, maybe a Renaissance fair, and you see a blacksmith, you'll see them using anthracite coal or bituminous. Now, they didn't use that. A lot of their, to heat their fires, it was wood. That's the only thing that they had in this area, and they had an abundance of. When a farmer needed a lot of fields cleared, he would call in a lot of the local inhabitants to cut his trees down. They would cut the trees, and they would, cart off the wood to be used. Usually in sawmills, they carted it off, or, anybody got the wood. And it was used in a foundry like this. Now, a blacksmith would have had an anvil, as you see in the movies. They would have pounded on the anvil. They would have made different things. They would have made spatulas. They would have made cooking spoons. They would have made hinges for your house. They would have made horseshoes also. And blacksmiths basically had a very interesting job. The longer that they did it, the better they got at their craft. And a lot of times you go into a blacksmith shop or a blacksmith's house and you see his work. His house was a showcase for his trade. He would have the best hinges. He'd have the best door handles. And basically a lot of his pots and pans were made, they were showcased to the public. This is what I can do. Now, some of the pots and pans that were used during the Revolutionary War times were spider pans. A spider pan is a frying pan like you have today, but it would have legs on it. And it would have 3 legs on it. And basically what this was at the fireplace, or the hearth, I'm sorry, as they called it, there'd be a big pot. Usually it's made of cast iron, poured cast iron. They wouldn't make that a blacksmith. That would be made at a forge. That would swing out, and basically what they would do is take some embers out of the fire. And on the front would be, I guess, a threshold, and it was usually made of stones. They would take the embers and they put them on the threshold, then they would put the pot on top where the embers were. The embers were hot and cooked the food. So all their cooking was done over a hearth or a main fireplace area. Now, the blacksmith would have made different, like I said, utensils. He would have made chain. He would have made sometimes pieces for horses, harnesses. He would make bits for the horses. A lot of this was farmland, and they needed farm implements. They needed to have hoes. They needed to have different types of things to break ground with. Everything would be made in a blacksmith shop. Now, you think how primitive this is today. We go to Walmart, we just buy what we need, and when it breaks, we throw it away. Back then, they didn't do that. They recycled things. If something broke, they would take it to the blacksmith and basically they'd restore it, or they would repair what was broken. So what we're looking at here is a structure. Basically, it's stone. Now this is a Chester County stone. This isn't sandstone. It would have been made, and then there's like I said, there's plaster. Now what wasn't restored on this building like it would have been? The plaster is put onto the bricks, or I'm sorry, the stones, and then they would put whitewash on it. They usually put a white coating over the bricks. It basically was a early form of waterproofing. These buildings would glisten in the sun. They were white. They would have red windows because basically back then, red was the cheapest pigment around. They would paint their houses and windows in red, and the siding of the houses were plaster with a white type of paint. It was called whitewash. Now this blacksmith shop, like I said, has been restored. I've never been in it. I'm sure it's really historically accurate inside. And this is where the stables would have been for the horses. They would have been around the back. A different aspect of the area is that many of these towns had a blacksmith shop. They had different types of things that were going on back here. They had different meetings. They were known in the community. They knew who they were. They were nice people. During the Revolution, they probably made implements for the Revolutionary War. They probably bought different things up here. They definitely didn't plunder this. The British Army didn't come this far during the march to Brandywine. So whatever was in here was kept. Whatever was in here was kept exactly like it is today. It wasn't caught on fire. A lot of these buildings suffered because they found out that they were making implements for the Continental Army, and they were burned to the ground by the British. Now what we see again, we're in the town of Marsalton, and this is a historic structure from before the Battle of Brandywine that still exists today. And we're lucky to have structures like this today, and we're lucky to have citizens that take care of structures like this and bring them back to their authenticity. It's quite an engineering process to do it. There's definitely architects in the area that restore barns and houses, and this was done in 1971 by the Friends of Martin's Tavern.